You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowing like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper than again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the second part of What If Naruto Meets Rick and Morty? Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of pyrohelixdrago on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Smith residence. So they were kidnapped by anti-nudist alien scammers. Beth asked curiously as she had asked Naruto if he had seen her father. Yeah, Rick gave me a list of species to ignore if he ever gets kidnapped. Naruto said as Rick basically robbed these idiots for some computer chips a while back. Okay. Want a drink? Beth asked as she hated drinking alone made her feel sad and depressed. 6 hours later. He's that bad, huh? Naruto asked her simply as Beth was slightly flushed and telling him about how Jerry was abysmal, to put it mildly, in bed. You have no idea. These days he lasts maybe 2 to 3 pumps before blowing his tiny load, never does any FRPLY and just cares about sticking it in me. His PP is acorn-sized at most and hell I have seen a squirrel with bigger ball than him. Beth said as she had done much with a DLD performing many shameful acts as she wanted to try exciting things and she wanted to do those things with Naruto as she saw her chance to be and perform many depriving SXL acts. 6 days. Naruto said simply. What? Beth asked wondering what he meant. IF supernova for 6 days straight, barely any breaks. I made her CLMX so many times my bed was soaked, my floor was ruined, and every room in my house was marked with our essence. Holy F. Beth said breathlessly as sure she figured given his stamina Naruto could likely go for several rounds or even hours, but to hear he went for nearly a week straight was mind-blowing. She shuddered as she pictured what such a segathon would be like. I'll ruin you, Beth. SEC will never be the same after we F, you will crave only my PP and you'll be an even bigger SLT than you are. Naruto said with a grin. Here Summer took many pictures after Christmas, he said as Summer was shameless taking many photos during section. Beth blushed even more as scrolled through the pictures, each more CC and depraved than the last, causing her to rub her thighs together. Can I have some more time? She asked as she knew Naruto was perfect, but she wanted to take it slow for a little while longer. Sure, but... Naruto said, pulling her onto his lap, making her MMM in surprise as he pulled her into a kiss. Beth MMM as this was incredible, she had finally had a person that treated her like a woman and with much romance that Jerry never showed or had given her. You know, I wonder if you are as salty as Summer and if that's where she gets it from. Naruto said, seeing her not look him in the eye. She really loved eating my PP and when I shoved it down her throat, he said as he moved her aside and grabbed her hand, making it run along the outline of his PP which was visible in his pants leg due to its size. Beth bit her lip as she moved her hand up and down the cloth, marveling at its size as if she was hypnotized by it. Hearing Naruto let out a slight groan snapped her out of her stupor as she looked to Naruto, her eyes half-lidded with arousal and a slight blush on her cheeks, though it wasn't from the alcohol. Pull down your pants. Beth said breathlessly. Oh, I think maybe you should be the one to pull them down given how eager you seem to be to get at what's beneath them. Naruto says with a grin. Hearing this, Beth wasted no time and quickly undid his belt before unbuttoning and unzipping his pants, pulling them and his boxers down in a single quick tug, causing his PP to flop out and smack her in the cheek. Beth just stared at the huge throbbing meat, breathing heavily as his manly scent filled her nostrils, sending shivers down her spine. Her eyes gazed at every detail of his mighty PP, burning it into her memory, from the large head to the thick shift with a couple of visible veins, the slight curve to it which promised to scrap against all her most sensitive spots, and finally, his large full SCRTM which housed his ball, which had to be either golf ball or walnut-sized by her estimates. Seeing her transfixed gaze, Naruto grabbed her hand and placed it on his ball. "Come on, I know you like to look. Now enjoy the feeling," he said, seeing her snap out of her stupor. "The horses I worked on were small compared to him." Beth thought, drooling slightly as she began to cup and massage his ball in her hands. "Hurry up, Beth. I know you want me and I know you've been spying on me," Naruto said as he had sensed Beth when she used Rick's invisibility belt to try and spy on him from a distance as he F Supernova and Summer last week. Beth could see how eager his PP was to F and claim whatever be it was inside, as it was truly a thing that would claim and break a woman. "Maybe I should get you on the same diet as your daughter," Naruto said to himself in thought. "She milks me with her mouth and tips so that she can put my seed in her food. Your daughter is an addict for my juices. Maybe I should do the same with you," he asked as she blushed and thought of drinking copious amounts of his seed. "Is that why Summers seems to have slimmed down a bit while also gaining a glow to her skin, and why it seems like her peach and melons have gotten a little bigger?" Beth asks, having noticed that Summer's pants and shirts have seemed to have gotten slightly tighter on her over the last few weeks. "Yep, my girls are on a great diet of eating my juice followed by plenty of intense and loving F," Naruto said as he made sure his girls were probably taken care of and often made sure to prepare them. He had also begun training Summer and showed her how to fight bare-handed, leading to her body to improve greatly. "Do you think my body would improve? Would you longing it more?" Beth asked softly as she had begun to doubt her looks over the years, which was yet another part of why she stuck married to Jerry, as she thought she wasn't pretty enough anymore to find someone new should she divorce Jerry. "Yes, and I longing all my girls," Naruto said instantly as he answered her questions in order. Hearing Naruto's words and the complete honesty in his tone was ultimately the push Beth needed to cement her decision. Pulling her head back, she placed a kiss on the tip of Naruto's PP before she began slowly running her tongue all over the head, making sure to lick every single centimeter of it. She then proceeded to lick down the length of his all the way down to the base before turning around, making her way back up once more, not missing a single part of his pages. After liking down lengthy once more, she made her way to his ball, running her tongue along the mighty pair, worshipping their size and manliness. Naruto let out a groan as Beth moved her hands up to his and began slowly stroking it up and down as she continued to lather his sack with her tongue. The blonde let out a hiss when Beth decided to change things up by taking not just one but both of his ball into her warm mouth and SCK on them, running her tongue along them as if they were candy she were eating on. "Oh, you seem to like my ball, don't you?" Naruto asked with a grin, seeing the blonde MLF continue to passionately SCK on his sack and slide his PP. "I love it. It's so big," Beth thought, looking at the giant size of his PP that filled her vision as she tried to look Naruto in the eyes. "I asked you a question, Beth, and I want an answer or this ends right now," Naruto stated sternly. Beth's eyes widened in horror at this before she released his sack from her mouth. "Please don't let this end. I love your ball. They are so big and manly. Just from rubbing and eating them I can tell they were packed to the brim with vast amounts of your manly gravy," she said desperately. "Well, given how passionate your response was, we can continue, though I think it's time you moved on to another part, don't you?" Naruto says with a grin as he grabs his PP and waves it back and forth in front of her eyes, chuckling as he watches her eyes track it back and forth. Naruto stopped waving his PP back and forth and placed it right in front of Beth's mouth, probing at her lips for entrance. Seeing that Naruto was waiting for her to make the first move, Beth opened her mouth and slid her lips down his length, feeling it stretch her jaw open wider than she had ever opened it before. Beth teared up as Naruto was inside her mouth, making her shiver in delight and joy, wondering what Naruto could really do to her when he took control instead of letting her go at her own pace. Gawk 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 were all the sounds Beth could make as Naruto's PP stretched out her throat, making her drool through the gaps of her mouth every time she pulled back. "DMN, you have a tight throat, Beth," Naruto said as he ran his fingers through Beth's hair as she F her mouth and throat with his PP. "HHLLKK. SRRLLPPP. M. Gah. Her eyes went wide again as she tried to basically multitask when she was face F herself with Naruto's huge pages. Her slurping his member yet greatly stumbled. More gagging moises occurred before her head was pulled away from his now slick member shining with her saliva. Take your shirt off, Beth. I want you to sandwich my pee-pee with your tips as you take my pee-pee in your throat, Naruto commanded. Beth wasted no time and simply tore off her red shirt, not wanting to part from his member before using her hands to push her melons up and wrap them around what she could of Naruto's before once more taking it into her mouth. The blonde MLF was shocked by how due to Naruto's size her tips only covered half of his pee-pee, leaving the other half to once more be lodged into her mouth and throat as she resumed throating it. Naruto groaned a little, feeling her soft melons along with her mouth at the same time. She was doing her best to please him in an awkward placement, due to her being either inexperienced or heavily rusted from such acts. After what felt like hours for Beth, her job came to an end as he decided to help her along and used his grip on the back of her head to start making her take his pee-pee faster and harder, as he also began thrusting his hips a bit to aid in the action. And sometime afterwards, he leaked. As his SMN shot down her throat, she honestly did her best to swallow it all. Her GG reflex wasn't up to snuff after decades of not being suppressed, so she began to cough with his member still lodged into her orifice. She soon pulled out and continued to cough a bit more as Naruto continued spraying her face and tips with his thick seed before settling down. You okay? Yeah, I'll manage. Been a long time since I had something even remotely big, and even then I have never had something as big as yours. Beth admits. Before Jerry? Beth gave a small nod. One time before I even met him. She soon swiped some SPRM dripping off her face and placed it into her mouth. Taste is a bit strange, but something I'll get used to, she said, downplaying the fact that she really loved the taste and was savoring it and very much wanted more. Of course, before anything could proceed further, the bedroom door opened to reveal Jerry, who upon seeing his wife kneeling before Naruto, her shirt off, face and tips covered in juices with even more leaking from her mouth, and finally Naruto's still irked massive pee-pee coated in his leftover juice as well as Beth's saliva and lipstick, he yelled, "What the F?" be straight up fainting from shock. In an automatic response, Beth practically froze on being discovered in such a manner. Her thinking things couldn't have gotten worse. And yet, in an odd reaction. Welp, moments ruined. You don't want to continue? Beth asked. Oh, I do, but not without interruptions. And suddenly seeing Jerry pretty much killed the mood. Naruto says with a shrug. In a sad way, Beth agreed with him as her husband was a reverse PHRDS. So how will this get fixed? She asked him, gesturing to the passed out Jerry and how he would react upon waking up. Given what I know of him, he may end up repressing the memory with how traumatized he got. If so, then probably not mention a thing to him to have it trigger. Or hell, he might think the whole thing was just a dream or simulation, given that it seems he got caught up in Rick being abducted by those scammer aliens today. And if he doesn't think it's a dream or remembers it? Beth asked. Naruto pondered a moment before muttering something out. I think Rick has some mind blowers, memory erasers holed up in the garage. Mind blowers? Beth asked, finding the name kinda odd. His attempt of memory backups in case of anything. Yet a little offshoot of it deals with extracting a memory permanently and storing it. Well, that's both disturbing and oddly convenient. Beth admits. Yeah, well, we should probably get cleaned up so that Jerry thinks it was a dream or something, Naruto says as he steps out of his pants and picks them up before leaning down to kiss Beth's forehead. If you hurry, I might just have time to do something nice for you as a reward for your hard work, so meet me in the shower, he says huskily as he heads to the bathroom, leaving Beth panting before she quickly uses her hands to gather up all of Naruto's juices that dripped on the floor before liking it up and running after Naruto to join him in the shower for her reward. In all honesty, it took a Herculean effort for her to not get down and dirty in the shower with him, but Naruto told her it wasn't the right time yet, so instead he treated her to fingering her pee-pee as he nibbled on her melons, the intensity of both actions nearly making her scream in pleasure before her legs gave out and she collapsed to her knees in the shower. Afterwards Naruto proceeded to use a washcloth and attentively and lovingly scrub her body clean while also massaging it, making her sigh in bliss at the loving attention he was giving her. Few days later. The Meeseeks box, really? Naruto said as he sensed them come into existence, and given that many were summoned he decided to check on Rick. Soon enough he found and confronted him to learn of the situation at hand. So you just decided to pawn off helping Beth and Summer with their problems to the Meeseeks while you and Morty go on an adventure, of Morty's choosing? Naruto asks. Yeah, pretty much, and you didn't mention Jerry. Rick says with a shrug as he takes a swig from his flask. Meh, I doubt even a Meeseeks could help him. Hell, I bet he F it up so bad that something crazy like a Meeseeks rebellion happens. Naruto says with a shrug. Listen, at least give Morty a fair playing field, okay, cause let's be honest, you do a lot of crazy SHT that sometimes makes you GG. Naruto said as Rick sometimes bit off more than he could chew. Alright, fine, I will give him a chance. I take it you won't be joining us? Rick says with a raised brow. Nah, think I am going to sit this one out, maybe hang out at the mall or something, as I have yet to check it out. Oh yeah, also keep messing with Jerry, I kinda wanna see him snap. Rick said offhandedly. I have no idea what you're talking about, Naruto says with a smirk. Right, sure you don't. Rick says with a laugh as he and Morty head through a portal. Naruto rolled his eyes, but it was at least nice to know in some way Rick approved of him and Beth. The former shinobi decided to stick around for a few minutes to see what the others asked the Meeseeks to help them with. Beth had apparently asked her Meeseeks to help her decide some stuff and have a talk. Summer asked hers to help her grades, given they slipped a bit since she and Naruto started dating, mainly as a result of all the SEC they had been having. Jerry on the other hand decided to be a smartass and ridicule Beth and Summer's choices before asking his Meeseeks to help him improve his golf game. Naruto shook his head at this as he doubted such a thing was even possible. With his observation done, he decided to head to the mall like he had planned to see if it lived up to the hype that teenagers gave it. After having arrived at the mall and looking around for a bit, Naruto could safely say he honestly didn't see what teenagers found so appealing about the place. The blonde was preparing to leave when he heard someone shout Naruto, causing him to turn around and see Jessica and Trisha standing a bit away from him waving at him with smiles. Few hours later. Why the F are there a dozen? Naruto asked Jerry, seeing a dozen Meeseeks. They each pushed the button, Jerry said boredly. Wow, he's gonna die. Naruto thought as Meeseeks lived to fulfill their purpose, and if Jerry kept summoning them there would be a riot. He checked his phone to see Summer was blowing up on social media for the school and went to look for Beth. Few minutes later. You know you can talk to me, right? Naruto said, taking the place of the Meeseeks that exploded. Oh, I didn't want to bother you. Beth said, brushing back her hair. You can talk to me, Beth. Naruto said reassuringly. Beth blushed as she never had such a reliable partner before. I am just worried about how Summer will take the whole me being interested in you thing, she says with a sigh. Few hours later. The F happened to you? Naruto asked, seeing Morty had a few cuts and saw he looked a bit messed up clothes-wise. Morty cried a few moments before telling what happened. Naruto seemed calm, but inward he was furious, so furious it'd have made one Kushina Uzumaki beam with pride. He got Annie from her room as she lived with him as it was more convenient. 10 minutes later. I wanna watch it burn. Annie said calmly as they revealed to the townspeople who their king really was and even gave them a box of his photos, which sent riots and much through the village. Half the people were utterly appalled and disgusted by their former king, whose brutalized lifeless body was hanging from the main gate of his castle. The other half, however, were content with looking past their king's darker aspects as he had made the kingdom prosper throughout his rule, thus leading to the current state. Few days later. Summer was enjoying herself immensely as she had called Trisha over to her house, while the school's resident SLT was now on her knees kissing her feet. She knew that Trisha had it bad for Naruto, constantly following him, and knew the girl would do anything, as Summer knew the girl was shameless and had nothing holding her back. You want to be with my boyfriend, don't you, SLT? Summer asks the kneeling and panting form of Trisha. Yes, more than anything. I want him to completely wreck my holes so that they are forever shaped for his PP alone. I want him to blast my tips and face with his hot thick virile seed so that I can rub it in like lotion. I want him to fill my holes with so much of his juices that I look PRGNT and it travels through my body completely before leaking out my mouth and nose. I want him to knock me up so that we can have prego CC as he eats on my lactating tips. Trisha says, panting heavily and fingering her PP. Summer blinked a bit on how graphic Trisha described it all, yet recomposed herself moments later. That's all well and good, though there is one thing you must do first. I will do anything. Trisha yells. Summer smiled at that, seeing the sheer look of desperation on her face. With Jessica. Oh my god, what am I gonna do? Jessica thought of destroying her room as Naruto had asked her to the dance, something she got many envious looks from all the other girls. I wonder what the SEC will be like, she thought nervously as she heard from Summer Naruto was a beast, and even heard it as Naruto once walked into the girls' locker room and F Summer right then and there, though none of the girls complained as they got a free show. I wonder if he'll F me and another girl, she thought, as liked boys and girls and had many SXL experience with other girls, namely Trisha, but she wondered what he'd do to her. 2 hours later. God, he looks good in a tux. Beth thought, spying from a distance, and when her eyes landed on the suit she thought to marry. God, I wish he would marry me. She thought of picturing herself in a gown which Naruto would proceed to rip off and take her, effectively making her his woman. Later with Naruto. Are you two seriously doing drags? Naruto asked Annie and Morty, seeing them put something in a cup and were about to drink it. Listen, it's just an PHRDS and we were gonna drink it together. Annie said, rolling her eyes. As they talked, Annie put the cup down, and before they could notice, Brad, the school's resident, has gulped it down, and suddenly his pupils slowly started to become dilated as he drank a chemical meant for skin contact. With Jessica. Hey Naruto, this dance is kinda lame. Do you want to leave and go do something else? Jessica says, shyly brushing one of her bangs behind her ear. Sure. Naruto teleported them to his house. That was cool. Jessica said, as she had seen Naruto do a lot of incredible things. It added mystery to his character and made him more exciting in her perspective. So what do you feel like doing now? Naruto asks with a smirk, having a hunch at what the girl had in mind. Jessica opened her mouth to say something but was silenced by a chime emitting from Naruto's phone. Just a sec, Jessica, it seems Summer is texting me. Bring the redhead. Summer texted a picture of Trisha on her bed, her nearly naked body on display as she bit her finger and used her other hand to slide her panties to the side and spread her PP open for the camera, looking extremely aroused. Well, it seems like she wants us to head over to her house, as apparently she has a surprise for us. Naruto says with a grin, keeping the picture out of Jessica's line of sight. Jessica followed him and kept her eyes on his, as admiring all of his body as nothing wasn't secretary. The two quickly reached the Smith house and walked in before heading to Summer's room, where Naruto proceeded to knock on the door. Come in, Summer's voice could be heard from inside before Naruto opened the door and stepped into the room with Jessica right behind him. Jessica was surprised upon walking into Summer's room, seeing Trisha in her underwear panting in lust. She knew her friend was aware, for the lack of a better word, as she had many kinks and had many SXL fantasies despite having never actually slept with a guy. I see you have been enjoying yourself, Summer. Naruto says with a smirk as he shifts his gaze over to Trisha, who visibly shivers in delight at the look in his eyes. Oh, definitely. You see, Trisha here came over and made a very interesting request, and after going over some details, we came to an agreement, Summer said, liking her lips in excitement. Oh, and just what was the request? Naruto asks her. Well, you see, Trisha here is very attracted to you and asked if she could join our little relationship. I told her she could, provided she submits to both myself and you. Summer says. And I really want to serve you, MSTR. Trisha said as she looked at him beggingly. Oh, I can clearly see that, given by how you are positively leaking all over Summer's bed. Summer, it seems I have a naughty B to DSPLN. Why don't you keep Jessica company for a bit until I am done? Naruto says, walking over to Trisha, taking his shirt off on the way. Trisha quivered under his gaze as she felt naked under his gaze even more so if her clothing was off, as it seemed like he was gazing into her very soul. Jessica felt corny as Summer raised the bottom of her dress and reached into her panties, fingering her. Watch. Summer said, whispering into her ear. Watch how he breaks her even more so than before, and you can expect what'll happen to you, she said, hoping Naruto would be very visual and show Trisha's facial reactions. So you want to serve me? Why should I let a filthy wear like you serve me? Naruto says, slipping into a dominating personality. Please MSTR, I will do anything. You can have me anytime and anywhere, my body exists to serve you however you deem fit. If you command it, I will walk around NDE with a tattoo signifying I am yours and yours alone proudly on display. My holes and tips belong to you. If you wish to knock me up and use me as nothing more than a broodmare, I will give you legions of children if that is your longing. If you wish me to consume nothing but your thick virile seed, then I will do so. My entire existence is to serve you however you longing, she said, fully committed to Naruto even though she had yet to be touched by him. That tattoo thing sounds exciting. Summer thought to herself as she unconsciously pulled her hand out of Jessica's PP and shoved her now wet fingers into the girl's mouth, getting a mm from her as Summer's other hand started grpng Jessica's tips. Given your devotion, I will privilege you with the honor of serving me and any woman I claim as mine. Now get to using that mouth and those huge tips of yours and service me. Naruto says with a savage grin, fully committing to the role. Trisha undid his pants and became fearful seeing his rather large member pop out, fully irked. It smells so manly, she thought, taking in his incredible and strong scent with soft inhales before seemingly snorting it. It tastes amazing, she thought as she began liking it, noticing the taste was strong and unique and was quite tasty to her. Stop slacking off and get to work SLT or I will not keep you. Naruto snarls out, grabbing Trisha's hair and pulling her head back. Yes MSTR, I am sorry. Trisha yells out before opening her mouth and slamming her face into Naruto's pelt, forcing his long and thick PP deep into her throat with a single motion. Not bad SLT, it is quite the feat to be able to deep throat my entire PP in a single motion. Naruto says, praising Trisha's commitment to pleasing him. The girl looked up at Naruto, her eyes shining with devotion and lust at the praise despite her eyes watering slightly, making her makeup run a bit. Summer looked envious, but she smiled as she would use Trisha in the future and get any payback if she could use her like the where they all knew she was. Trisha began rapidly and forcefully moving her head back and forth as she greedily ate on Naruto's PP and ran her tongue all along what she could as it stretched her throat out and filled her mouth. Over and over she repeated this, wanting nothing more than to please her MSTR, to bring him satisfaction so that he may gift her with his precious seed. Yes, that's a good wear, taking my PP nice and deep while also making sure to use that where tongue of yours as well. But I seem to recall also ordering you to use those fat tips of yours as well. Naruto says, reaching down to slap Trisha's melons, making them jiggle and causing her to around his PP, sending pleasurable vibrations up it. Forgive me MSTR, I was lost pleasuring you with my ware mouth. Trisha yells as she ripped off her BR and wrapped her bust around his member. I hope he likes my tips, she thought, hoping her MSTR liked them. Not only are they huge but they are soft as well, very nice SLT. I will enjoy them and covering them with my seed in the future, Naruto says. Trisha as she could taste his pre-juice so far and it tasted heavenly. She'd love to drink in all his seed and to be showered in it made it even more appealing. Over and over Trisha worked her tips up and down his thick and long PP, which was so big a good amount of it poked out from her melons, which she made sure to pay attention to eating on it devotedly. Get ready SLT because your hard work and devotion has finally paid off. Naruto says as he grabs the back of Trisha's head and forces his PP back down her throat as he begins unleashing his seed down her esophagus. Trisha had tears fall down as she let out a blissful as she felt his juice fill her stomach and soon her mouth as Naruto pulled his PP back slightly, resulting in his seed to fire out her nose as well. Naruto then pulled his still leaking pee-pee out of her mouth and proceeded to cover her whole face and tips with his thick seed. So much. Jessica thought in shock seeing he was still primed and ready to go. Now that's a perfect look for you, juice drunk and covered with my juice. Naruto says with a grin. Pose B. Summer said as she took some snapshots. Thank you Mstr. Trisha managed to say after having finally swallowed all the juices that had flooded her mouth. That was my first load, you'll be working harder for the rest, SLT. Naruto said to her in a calm tone. Yes Mstr, whatever you wish. Trisha yelled excitedly. Very good, now get on your hands and knees facing Summer and Jessica. Your Mstr wants you to give them a clear view of your face as I take what is mine, Naruto commanded her. Trisha immediately does as she was commanded and is soon looking at the two getting on her hands and knees as Naruto lines up behind her, his throbbing pee-pee nudged against her soaked pee-pee lips. Tell me, where, have you ever been with anyone else? Naruto says as he slides his pee-pee up and down Trisha's pee-pee lips and roughly grabs her thick peach. No Mstr, no man has ever caught my attention as you have. I'm still a virgin. Trisha said proudly. Very good and for your honesty. I will let you decide if I go slow at first, given your virginity, or if you want me to go all out from the start. Either way, I will end up going full force at some point, so keep that in mind. Break me. I am yours. Trisha said, wanting her Mstr to ruin her for anyone else wanting to only be pleased by him. Very well then SLT. Naruto says before savagely slamming his pee-pee ball deep into Trisha's pee-pee with a single move, shattering her virginity and piercing into her WMB with a single move before he began brutally F her with fast and deep thrusts that sent ripples through her peach, jolted her forward with each move, and filled the room with the sound of loud clapping every time his pelve met her peach cheeks. Trisha screamed in pain and pleasure as she was a MSCST, so the pain only added more to her pleasure. Holy F. Jessica thought in lust as she saw the look Trisha had, and it was incredible. She paid little attention as Summer pulled her dress off and took off her underwear and began fingering her once again while also nibbling on her ear and grpng her tips. I must say SLT, your PP is very tight and warm. It feels quite good around my pages. Naruto praises as he continues his ferocious thrusts. Thank you Mstr. Trical screams in utter bliss as her eyes roll up into her head and her tongue hangs out of her mouth, while her large tips actually slap the bottom of her chin due to the force behind each move being so great. Yes that's it, scream for me SLT. Scream to the heavens about how much of a where you are for my PP and seed. Show Summer and Jessica how much of an unrepentant SLT you are for me. Naruto yells as he begins roughly slapping Trisha's rippling peach, leaving a red handprint with every slap and sending shockwaves of pleasure throughout her whole body. I am Mstr Naruto's salty where I serve only him, any order he gives I shall do. Trisha said as Naruto would have to say the word and that'd be it, she'd do it. What a devoted SLT you are Trisha. Summer says from behind a and fidgeting Jessica, who was barely standing on her shaky legs from the rough fingering and grpng Summer was giving her. You know school bores me. Maybe I'll ask Rick for a way to ditch class so you and I can F in school, maybe F you in the bathroom stall in the girls' bathroom, the girls' locker room, or hell maybe the cafeteria. I seem to remember you eating food that touched my pages. Naruto said teasingly. Yes they were delicious Mstr. I would eat anything off your mighty and manly PP. Trisha yells as her whole body shakes in yet another mind-breaking orgasm from Naruto's PP. I will keep that in mind SLT, as maybe later I will let you SCK my PP again, only this time it will be covered in chocolate or whipped cream. Naruto says, continuing his pounding. Oh you like that idea, don't you, SLT, he adds after feeling her PP clamp down like a vice and spasm as she has yet another orgasm. Trisha loudly as she had many SXL fantasies and she saw Naruto was a person who could make her live through all of them and then some. He doesn't look tired. Jessica in pleasure. He can F for days SLT, he's just going easy on her. Summer said, slightly. Naruto. Jessica thought in longing, feeling very jealous of her friend and all the things Naruto said to her. Feeling his PP throb, Naruto grinned as he increased the force and speed of his thrusts even more, making his hips a blur to Jessica and Summer. I am going to leak SLT. Now be a good wear and take it all nice and deep, he yells, and with a final brutal move slams into Trisha and begins unloading his seed directly into her WMB. Trisha has the wind knocked out of her lungs from the sheer force of the move before she takes a gasp of air and screams in pleasure as she feels his hot thick seed flood her WMB. Her entire body shakes and spasms as the biggest orgasm of her life erupts like a supervolcano, causing her eyes to roll back into her head, her tongue to hang out of her mouth and her arms to give out, sending her crashing into the bed. Over and over she feels more and more of Naruto's seed pumped into her rapidly filling WMB, and even when she can feel there is no more room in her WMB, his seed continues to pump in. Finally, after what felt like hours to Trisha but was in actuality only a couple minutes, she feels his seed stop filling her. You did very well, where? Naruto says, pulling his still hard PP covered in both his and Trisha, leaked out of her throughly F, gaping, and pulsing PP as he watches her hips spasm and shake as she continues to have orgasm after orgasm. Naruto smirks seeing this before he rolls Trisha onto her back. You did well, SLT, and I look forward to having you serve me countless times in the near future, but for now you have earned some rest. Jessica's eyes widen in shock upon seeing the visible bulge in Trisha's lower abdomen where her WMB is. Dear God, he leaked inside her so much from a single leak that she looks like she is in the early stages of PRGNNCY, she thinks in fear, but that fear is quickly overpowered by her own arousal at the display of total manliness. Naruto turned and looked at Jessica, causing the girl to gulp. Your turn now, Jessica, if you want it, he says. Jessica nodded unconsciously, her body basically on autopilot as she walked over to him. Make a snack. Summer said, pulling Trisha off to the side and off her bed, and began liking away at her pages. She then glanced over to Jessica and gave a teasing smirk. Have fun. Hugh, Trisha says groggily, still recovering from having her mind blown via pleasure. Quiet SLT and let me have my snack, then after I am done you can use your mouth to eat my PP and get it ready for your MSTR to take after he finishes breaking Jessica in, Summer commands, slapping Trisha's tips making them jiggle and get a from her. Whatever you say, Trisha says dazedly as she goes down to start feasting on Summer's damp flour, getting from the girl. I know Trisha is a pain SLT, wanting to get right into it. Jessica rubbed her arm and blushed slightly looking at said girl eagerly eating out Summer, making the orangette loudly in between, calling Trisha degrading names and dirty talking. But could you perhaps go easy on me, and ease me into it, she asked, looking like a blushing bride. The whiskered blonde nodded and gently laid her down on the mattress. The ginger-haired girl shivered when he began to slowly trail kisses down her jawline and proceeded to travel downward. The touches going along her flesh made her hitch her breath, especially when he went to her sensitive melons and going along her flat stomach. So soft. Thanks. She breathed out. I often take moisturizer to UGH. She yelped when she felt his mouth kissing her lower lips before slowly savoring it. One hand soon went down to his head, holding and pressing it deeper into her as he ate her out. The other went to one of her melons and began FNDLNG it. The ginger more and more as the ORL treatment went on. Eventually her breaths became rather labored with her heart rate climbing more and more. Come on, Jessica, be a good girl and leak for me. I really want to taste your sweet nectar. Jessica as Naruto seemed to find all her spots and couldn't deny his request and soon sprayed his face with her juices. All the while, he lapped up everything he could find of her squirted essence. The ginger quivered and shifted in the bed as she experienced the first of possibly many orgasms for the night. Before she realized it, her mouth was brought to his when he leaked up. She began tasting herself, which was rather odd to experience. I should figure out a better diet, came the thought as she continued making out with the blonde. Separating from her, he gave a coy smile. How do you want to proceed further? Traditional or dash? Yes. She said quickly. I just want to make sure you get what you longing, cause eventually I'll truly be doing what I want to you entirely. Naruto said as Jessica shuddered as she didn't know why or how, but she knew he was telling the truth. Imagine what depraved acts I'll enact on you. After all, what you saw from Summer and Trisha is merely a sample. Jessica's mind ran rampant thinking over everything Naruto could do to her, and even then she felt like she was only hitting the tip of the iceberg. Bringing his member to her moist slit, he toyed with her for several moments before inserting himself in. Jessica whined as he went further into her snatch. Farther than what standard dildos she had in her home, not realizing they were clearly not the right size to match Naruto's member, far from it in fact. Regardless, she never felt so full, as it just never seemed to end as he stretched her out. Even feeling him pressing against her cervix, making her grit her teeth in response. He didn't move, wanting her to adjust to the girth now stretching out her womanhood more than anything she had put inside of her. Upon seeing her nod, giving him the okay to move, he started to piston in and out of her. Jessica screamed in pleasure as Naruto slammed into her like a piston, giving her PP no mercy whatsoever, so big, she yelled as his PP continued stretching her wide. And you're very tight. Naruto said as he continued sawing his PP in and out of her PP, feeling her walls cling tightly to him as he did so. Leaning forward, Naruto took one of her tips in his mouth and began lightly rolling and eating it between his teeth, getting a gasp from the ginger from the dual assault on her PP and tips. Over and over Naruto worked his PP in and out of Jessica's PP, driving her through orgasm after orgasm, with her PP clamping down on him like a vice with each one. Reaching down and grabbing a hold of Jessica's peach, Naruto lifted her hips up to meet his thrusts before falling backwards onto the bed and pulling her with him so that she was now straddling him. Work yourself on my PP now, ride me. Naruto says, giving Jessica's peach a squeeze along with a slight move upwards of his hips, getting a in response. Jessica looked down and saw a noticeable bulge in her abdomen in the shape of Naruto's PP and as she stroked her stomach right where she could feel him slightly penetrating through her, feeling the bulge. Before long she slowly rose until only his thick, hot head was still in her before dropping down and pierced herself. She couldn't help but gasp and try to catch her breath, since she just felt more like she was punched in the gut. Only in this case it wasn't by a fist but the pages. It was different from missionary, given gravity was pushing her down further on being impaled. Eventually she began moving up and down and gyrating her hips, feeling the intense wave of pleasure as time went on, with it flooding her senses. Jessica eventually brought her hands down to his toned abs for support as it went on with how much effort she was putting into her present act. Oh Naruto. You're so big. So good. I can't pee. After seeing her ride him for a while, he decided to contribute. Him grabbing her soft, glistening peach before thrusting his hips upwards to collide with hers. They slammed into each other, making Jessica roll her eyes back in response, with the intense waves coming in more and more on the little change-up. Naruto soon made her go faster with more force as he felt his girth penetrating her cervix little by little over time. God! Don't stop me. I'm so full. Faster. I want you to me till I pass out. I want to not be able to feel my legs. I want your baby. Her cries were matching how maddening she got from the SXL high she was experiencing. She leaned down and ensnared his face so they could go into a fierce make-out session, all the while her hips raised and lowered, slamming into his at a feverish pace, making her peach cheeks ripple in Naruto's hands and loud clapping to be heard every time their hips met. Jessica's eyes widened as she felt Naruto's PP start to throb and pulse inside her. Yes. Leak inside me, Naruto. I want to feel you flood my insides with your juice. Jessica yells, increasing her pace, even more desperate to feel him leak inside her at the same time she reaches her own CLMX. Well then get ready, because here it leaks. Naruto says with a grin as he slammed himself deep inside Jessica, breaching her WMB and flooded it with his seed. If I wasn't on BRTHCNTRL I'd be PRGNN for sure. Jessica thought, her mind feeling high in the clouds as her body pulsed in pleasure. Throughout this encounter, Summer was playing in Trisha like no tomorrow. Beginning the training process in breaking in her new pet. And suffice to say, she was greatly enjoying the brunette's services. At this time, she had the corny SLT eating out her peach as she sat on her face. And not wanting to leave her out of the fun, Summer was furiously FSTNG her PP before pulling her hand out and inserting her full arm into her peach to really see how much Trisha loved it. Suffice to say, Trisha became far more eager in eating Summer out, both her peach and PP not caring which hole she liked. Naruto looked from the still orgasming Jessica atop his lap over to Summer and Trisha and grinned. "Alright babe, that's enough, I want to F you now, so get over her and take Jessica's place. Jessica, you go over there and take Summer's place. I want you and Trisha eating the juices out of each other's peepees." Naruto says, giving Jessica's peach a smack causing her to shiver and as she slid off of Naruto's still hard PP, shocking none of his seed slipped out of her thoroughly FPP, and she made her way over to Trisha while Summer took her place on Naruto's PP. Immediately, Jessica and Trisha did as commanded. The ginger was weak on the action, given how tired she was. Yet more and more, due to Trisha furiously eating her out like a starving, thirsty animal, slurping and munching on her dripping quim. Seeing this happen had Summer go down on Naruto, liking and eating his coated member as she savored the mixed tastes from both herself and the two girls. Going in deep to slurp up everything there and having it cleaned up before continuing on with tonight's activities. Unfortunately for them, their SXL depravities would lead to an abrupt and annoying end. Right as Summer was going to impale her dripping and soaked PP, Naruto's phone rang, causing him to turn his head and see that Beth was calling him. "Just a second Summer, your mom is calling me," Naruto says, causing the girl to pout. "Just ignore it, Naruto. My PP needs your big thick PP to ravage it now." "Wow," Summer says with a whine, rubbing her PP back and forth on the head of Naruto's PP. "Summer, behave or I won't F you. Besides, it could be something important that your mom needs," Naruto says sternly, giving her peach a sharp smack as he answers his phone. "Hey Beth, what's up?" "Naruto, I need your help. Something is going on. My coworker started acting all freaky, asking me what Morty's GNTLS are like and what it was like to wash them when he was a baby, and now he is some kind of giant mantis human hybrid that wants to F Morty and is trying to attack me." Beth is heard yelling frantically. "What the F? Beth, is there somewhere safe at your work? Somewhere you can hide in?" Naruto asks, sitting up and causing Summer to slide off his lap. Meanwhile, Jessica and Trisha stop eating each other out upon hearing the conversation. "Yeah, I can barricade myself in my office." "Okay, do that, I will be there in a few minutes," Naruto says, getting up and hanging up his phone when he gets an okay from Beth. He then looks over at the girls. "Get dressed, something is going on and I have a feeling SHT is pretty bad," he says, putting his clothes on. The serious tone in his voice is snapping the girls out of their aroused state as they start getting dressed. When the girls are all dressed, Naruto has them circle around him as he teleports them all to Beth's work and head inside. Hearing a scraping noise as they near a corner in the hall leading to Beth's office, Naruto hands the girls each a gun from a storage seal in his clothes. Summer is given a rifle, Jessica a pistol, which is fine with her as she has little experience with guns, while Trisha is given a light machine gun. "Why the F does Trisha get a machine gun?" Summer whispers. "Because she has extensive firearms training," Naruto says with a shrug. "Wait, you do?" Summer asks her friend. "Yeah, got bored one spring break so decided to take a survival/arms training course," Trisha says with a shrug as she cocks the machine gun. Almost like working MSTR's PP, though nowhere near as satisfying," she adds on with a and lick of her lips. "Really, Trisha?" Jessica asks, finding it sort of crazy that her already wants more SEC from Naruto after how she was just F to near unconscious less than an hour ago. "All of you focus. Naruto says as he pulls out a kunai and holds it at the ready just as what was lurking in the halls turns the corner revealing the mantis-human hybrid of Beth's coworker Davin. You're not Morty. Where is Morty? I want to mate with Morty. Take me to Morty. Davin yells charging at the group with his sickle blade claws raised only for Naruto vanish and appear behind him with his kunai covered in green BLD. Yeah, how about UF die instead UF creep? Naruto says before Davin's head slid from his shoulders towards the floor falling into multiple pieces as it did as more slices were revealed on his face. Holy F babe, that was brutal, and totally F hot, Summer says with wide eyes. Well, the F'er deserved it, especially after how Beth told me he started making inappropriate advances on her and how she thinks he might have stolen a pair of her panties from the locker rooms here, and looks like she was right. Naruto says before pointing to the back area of Davin's corpse near his as where a pair of stretched and ruined women's panties were seen barely clinging to his muted body under his pants. While okay, totally taking back that comment about it being brutal, the sicko totally deserved it. Summer says. Yeah. Beth. It's safe to come out now. Naruto yells before the sound of stuff rapidly being moved from behind the door to Beth's office is heard and the door flies open and upon seeing Naruto Beth throws herself into his arms as he hugs her pulling her to his chest to comfort her. Shoo, it's okay now Beth, you're safe, Naruto says softly trying to soothe the blonde MLF. The group then walk into Beth's office to regroup while Summer and Trisha stand near the door guarding it. As they all stood in the small room, Beth's nose was hit with the smell of SEC coming from Naruto, Jessica, Summer, and Trisha causing her to quiver slightly. Naruto. I'm ready, she said taking a breath. I'm ready to be yours, she said as he approached her, barely any space between them. She screamed as Naruto picked her up and placed her on her desk, spreading her legs, making her feel his throbbing earth, making her shiver at how much she missed his meat stick. Naruto leaned in and gave her a passionate kiss on the lips, ravaging her mouth and dominating her tongue with his own, causing her to into the kiss and her toes to curl in her shoes while her arms wrapped around his neck. I would like nothing more to tear your clothes off and take you right here and now, but we have to find Rick and Morty and figure out what the hell is going on, he says, causing Beth to sadden at being denied yet again. However, tonight Beth, after this is over I am taking you. Naruto said, seeing her shake in fear and delight. I will take you multiple times, with the final time being in your bed. The very same bed that you have been forced to share with that worm Jerry for nearly 2 decades, he said, leaving her with that as he walked out. Beth fantasized about everything Naruto could do to her and what could happen. She looked at her wedding ring and knew that it was a joke. Goodbye and good riddance, Jerry, she thought, now wearing the ring as a symbol that she was cucking her weak husband. Okay, everyone get ready as we need to head out, and odds are we are going to run into more of those mantis monsters. Also Beth, here, use this to arm yourself. Naruto says before unsealing a shotgun from his seal and handing it to Beth. The group then heads out of the building, making their way towards the high school where Naruto has a feeling Rick and Morty are. 10 minutes later. On your left, Jessica. Naruto says, slicing the head off a mantis person as Jessica turns and fires at one that was approaching her on her left, blowing its brain out. Trisha was letting loose a hail of bullets from her machine gun as she Oh god, the vibrations from this machine gun firing are making Master's leak slosh around inside me, she yells in bliss before biting her lip as she continues firing. Beth blows the head off a mantis monster before turning and shooting another, blowing a huge hole in its chest before she one-handed cocks her shotgun, which Naruto catches out the corner of his eye as he slices down 2 more mantis monsters. That was hot, Beth, he says with a grin. That's just a preview of what I am going to do later, honey, though I will also pull a Hemingway with that long and thick PP of yours. Beth says with a wink and lick of her lips. Oh, you are so getting it later. Naruto says with a grin as he continues slaughtering mantis monsters. Geez Naruto, you just got done wrecking Jessica's and Trisha's holes and were about to do the same to mine, and now you want to do the same to my mom. I knew you had stamina, but geez. Summer says with a grin as she shoots a mantis person in the head. Wait, so MSTR is going to F your mom? That's hot. Are the 3 of you going to do a mother-daughter THRSM? Trisha says with a and lustful look on her face as she uses her machine gun to blow the PP off a mantis person before doing the same to his head. Trisha, behave, and to answer your question, I don't know yet, kinda busy killing mantis mutants while also ogling all of you as you are all so FCC right now as you butcher this affairs. Naruto says with a grin as the group continue making their way towards the high school. 10 minutes later. Mind explaining why people wanna F Morty and Annie? Naruto said as he locked down the gym. Naruto had gotten an emergency alarm on his phone about halfway in the group's trek to the high school from Rick telling him to meet him at the high school. Reaching the high school, which was visibly trashed, Naruto and the group see Rick and Morty standing on the roof of the building next to his car. Rick then throws down an expanding hard light platform disc that the group steps on before it levitates them up to the roof. So you wanna explain why everyone is mantis-human hybrids with a raging hard-on to take Morty's ass and eat his head afterwards? I used Morty and Annie's DNA for a sex serum these that the two little perverts wanted in order to lose all inhibitions and have super KNKY and freaky section. Rick said in annoyance. Hey, we just wanted to F in peace, not my fault some dip-ass jock punk be drank it. Annie said as she was pissed before she coughed and was breathing heavy. How the hell did a sec potion cause people to turn into mantis-human hybrids? Beth asked her father. Dumbass jock must have had the flu which caused the serum to mutate. As for the mantis bit, I may have tried cure it using praying mantis DNA as they are the. Basically the anti-love given the whole bite the head off the mate thing. Rick says with a shrug. Grandpa Rick/Dad. Summer and Beth yell at the same time in disbelief while Naruto just sighs and shakes his head. Suddenly the door to the roof bursts open revealing Principal Gna and Goldenfold leading a whole mob of mantis people. Seeing this, Naruto dashes over and slams the door shut holding it in place, though Gna and Goldenfold manage to slip by and dash towards Morty and Annie. Listen you corny idiots, leave alright, they are human so they can't do much. Naruto said as he was holding the mob back. Morty, Annie, the principal, and I are disgusting and insecure enough to agree to take one of you while the other watches and degrades us. Goldenberg said as he and Principal Gna continued their charge. EWFU pigs. Annie said as they charged them, Rick using a high-tech taser gun shooting Gna but was slow on Goldenfold as he dashed to Annie who he liked before biting and was tazzed. Ew, he F bit me. Annie said as he bit her neck. Oh god, he probably has so many STDs, she said as Goldenfold was thrashing on the ground. I have a cure somewhere for all Earth-based STDs somewhere. Rick said burping, getting looks from the others. What? It works. Annie felt off as she looked a bit messed up and pulled Morty to the side, pulling him into a closet. 30 minutes later. Rick, I'm getting tired of these guesses here, but I mean seriously, all that SHT you made zero sense. Naruto said as Mantis then some chimera serum, he was lucky he contained it to only the town and people were going bat SHT outside and not looking in here. Maybe if we were to combine my cosmic powers, Naruto's nature powers, and Rick's science that would fix this plague. Supernova suggests having arrived a few minutes ago and was obviously shocked to see the state of things after having been off-world for a few days to deal with stuff in space. Rick. Jerry said running inside with a shotgun. Why the F does this dipshit always live? He's like a cockroach. Rick thought to himself in rage. Jerry, sit down and be quiet, and, who the F did you kill? Naruto asked seeing Jerry had a police gun and BLD on his clothes. Jerry said looking nervous. F it, who cares? Rick said not really caring right now. Okay, I got it, where the F are the perverts, he asked becoming slightly sober. Naruto soon noticed both teens were missing. Jerry, go be useful. Rick's about to cure this SHT again. With Morty. Morty felt awkward as he had his first time with his girlfriend and it was wild, both good and bad. But that was not the main concern right now as she had gained a few mantis features, namely a slight change to the texture of her skin as it had become a bit like the exoskeleton of a mantis, and her eyes were the same lust-filled rage ones that the mantis people had. Her eyes then glazed over for a moment before returning to normal. Morty. Annie said as if she was coming out of a daze, and soon everything hit her all at once. I'm sorry, she said, hugging him with tears coming down her face. No, it's okay. Morty said, hugging her close also with tears, seeing she had returned to normal and her mantis appearance was slowly disappearing. Annie and Morty felt the world slow as while they did many things in the closet to each other and felt they crossed many boundaries, namely in how she had forcibly taken his as with a large black strap and how she acquired all so suddenly was beyond Morty. They still felt love for the other. Morty, I don't feel good. Annie said to him weakly as she threw up blood which covered her whole front. Morty panicked and then remembered something about Rick's car. He pulled Annie to the parking lot and got into the flying saucer ship. Come on Rick, he said angrily as he found the ship's scanner. Subject known as Annie has many viral infections mutated from unknown pathogens, the ship said to him. Subject time till expiration 1 week, she said to him. Guess that's how much time we have left. Annie said with a tearful smile. No, Rick can fix this. Maybe Naruto, too. Morty said in hope. Morty, they might be able to, but it could lead to a new mutation of the virus spreading, which I don't want to happen. I just want to spend the time I have left with you because I love you. Annie said with a sad smile. You've the best thing that happened to me. And I'm so lucky to have been with you. Annie leaned into the kiss Morty, and when their lips touched, her head exploded, Morty looking shocked and heartbroken as Annie's body fell to the floor. Got her, you're alright son. Jerry said with a proud smirk, cocking his shotgun, and approached Morty and hugged him. Morty soon felt something Rick felt when looking at Jerry, pure disgust and rage. With Rick. I feel proud right now. Rick said, unable to explain the feeling. Well, town is fixed and a few dozen people are dead, mainly 'cause of Jerry. I say this could have been worse. Naruto said to him as while he, Summer, Jessica, Trisha, and Beth it was rather limited, unlike Jerry who had not only stolen a shotgun from someone after killing them but apparently also went on to run down a large number of mantis hybrids with a cop car which he had also stolen. Rick said, thinking this was small scale but understood he was right and he could have F up his planet. Hopefully Supernova can fix most of this SHT. Naruto said as he was good, but Supernova had much better skill repairing the level of damage the town had received as a result of the rampaging mantis hybrids. Listen, I'm not good with this emotional SHT. Rick said, taking a swig from his flask. But I like you infinitely better than that F-stain Jerry. But if you hurt Beth, he said, pulling out his portal gun. Never gonna happen. Naruto said, stealing his flask, taking a swig. So what are you gonna do with Jerry? Rick asked curiously. It's funny, his mind goes into shock whenever he sees me doing anything with Beth, it's like he shuts down. Naruto said, filling him in. That is amazing. You gonna kill him or keep him? Rick said as he remembered Jerry's father, and torturing Jerry for the rest of his life sounded amazing and him being dead had its own appeal. Maybe keep him around for now as he's amusing and Beth wants to torture him. However, when she has her fill of torturing him, she is going to kick him to the curb and destroy him mentally. Naruto said to him. She's definitely her father's daughter. Rick said, almost sounding proud. Hey look, Morty is beating F out of Jerry. Man, my grandkids might have more Rick in them than I thought, actually makes me kinda proud, he said with a smile. Naruto saw what was going on and Annie's corpse and put 2 and 2 together. I'll have her properly buried, he thought to himself as he really liked Annie as a friend. He collected her body and soon made certain preparations. Naruto got everything he needed done either with his powers or more persuasive means. He soon got a text from Beth. With Supernova. Town is fixed now, all I have to do is take care of these 3. Supernova said as she was in her and Naruto's home looking at Summer, Jessica, and Trisha, all of them naked and restrained. Naruto may have F you, but I am going to teach you to worship him, and me. I am his woman, she said as these girls were not her equal. Only reason Beth isn't here is because it's her first time with Naruto, and I like her a lot more than you soon-to-be slaves, she said as she shape-shifted her planets to be the exact shape of Naruto's. "'Member, these are going to F you, till the sun rises," she said as the girls would have screamed if all their holes weren't stuffed. With Naruto. Naruto walked to Beth's room and smiled as he saw her in a pair of CC one-piece lingerie. Her tips were fully exposed, a heart-shaped ring over her tips attached to many black strings. The middle of them only went down her stomach, but her sides were fully exposed, and the panty part was very tight on her hips, and on the back there were slight openings on the back on the panties hugging more of her peach, and she had a nice pair of mesh stockings connected to a garter belt to the panties of her lingerie and wore a pair of CC stiletto heels. "Hi honey," Beth said, walking to him kissing his neck. "This means nothing," she said holding up her hand showing him her wedding band. "I am yours now and forever," she said as Jerry would never again touch her. "Then I should show you the love and devotion such commitment deserves," Naruto said leaning forward and claiming her lips in a passionate love-filled kiss as his hands slid down her back to grip her peach. Beth in Naruto's mouth feeling his urchin pressing against her clothed PP through his pants. "This is the guy I have been waiting for," she thought to herself. "This is the man that'll make all my dreams come true, to love me, to support me, and to F me like a real man making me feel like a real woman," she thought unable to wait any longer. Naruto laid Beth down onto her bed and strppd himself. "God, it looks bigger than last time." Beth thought seeing the PP that was her screensaver on her phone and the one that haunted all the dreams she had since she saw it making her soak her panties. He soon came back to her, making out with her. All the while beginning to play with her covered melons, tweaking, pulling and flicking her exposed tips. He broke away from kissing Beth at one point and went down to her fleshy orbs to begin eating them. The blonde MLF from the actions, holding his head to her melons which clearly needed much attention after all these years. The last time she got this much attention were with her BRSTFDNG her children. Naruto eventually broke away from Beth's embrace and her melons before going downwards. He came to her lower half and moved the panty part of her lingerie, revealing how wet her PP was. It was a appealing shade of pink with a small patch of hay above as if it was starting to regrow back. The hair glistened from the sweet nectar from her PP which had soaked the fabric, showing she was a true woman and was begging both body and mind to feel any form of from him. He began to tease her PP, making Beth and leak juices like a faucet from the touch of his tongue. "God, you are basically a virgin," he said guessing Jerry never stretched her out. Beth let out a throatful gasp as he felt his tongue enter her. A swirling motion was used, hitting all the right spots or perhaps ones which hadn't been touched in so long. She could practically feel the shape and girth of his tongue as it explored her PP. The way it stroked against every inch could as it traveled deeper and deeper inside of her as much as he could muster. The feeling of his tongue seemingly wanted to sample her very nectar as her body began to quiver and shift on the bed from the foreign invader inside of her. She gripped the sheets tighter to find some kind of support as she felt him arch his tongue upward and run along the roof of her womanhood from the inside. Her back began to arch as she felt his tongue run along her G-spot repeatedly. She oddly fought to free herself, yet he firmly held her in place. And his nose was stroking against her CLT as he pushed his tongue as far as he could, all the while smelling her out. Between the STMLTN of his nose and his warm breath, it was making her CLT swell with a level of longing she had never felt before. "Oh God, yes. Please keep eating me more. That F-tard Jerry has never done anything like this before. This feels so DMN good." Beth out, letting go of grasping the sheets and ran her hands through his blonde hair and gripped his head as tightly as possible, pushing him deeper into her. She didn't want this pleasure to end, given her lover was making up for all those years of SXL neglectance and unsatisfaction. And the blonde woman almost let out a whine as she felt Naruto let go of her hips, only for it turn into a as he grabbed a handful of her now sweat-covered peach as he knew she was almost there. She lifted her legs up and put them over his shoulders to help give him better access to keep her with his tongue. He even picked up the speed of liking and munching her PP while nuzzling her now hardened CLT. Her mind began to go blank when she soon leaked, her inner liquids heavily coming out of her on a long-awaited orgasm. Her eyes saw stars as her body shivered from the intense feeling she just went through. Eventually, just when she leaked down from the first SXL high for tonight, she felt him kissing her, sharing the juices which leaked out of her. Before long, she and soon screamed as Naruto plunged his member into her, swiftly having an explosive CLMX and soaking his lap and thighs with her juices. I must say I am a little worried about you, Beth. I mean to have such an explosive orgasm from just me inserting my PP into you, on top of me eating you out not long ago. What will happen when I actually start making love to you? Naruto says with a smile. I will be fine, honey, I am just not even remotely used to having such a perfect pages. Beth says, pulling Naruto's face down to her and kissing him again as she runs her fingers through his hair. After breaking the kiss, Beth looks up at Naruto and smiles. Now honey, connect to me, F my PP and claim it as yours and yours alone forever, she said, gently working her hips back and forth, nudging him around inside her. Naruto took the invitation and started slamming his hips against hers, making Beth loudly in pleasure as her PP kept leaking out juices. She's not gonna stop squirting, he thought in amusement, wondering how much he could get her to let out. Ah yes. You are so perfect, darling. You're so strong, your body so chiseled, your face so handsome, your personality so captivating, and your PP is far and above all other PPS in existence. Beth yells, working her hips to meet Naruto's thrusts as she wraps her arms and legs around him, pulling him as close to her as possible, feeling his chiseled chest rubbing against her irked tips and squashing her large melons. Why haven't I met you years ago? And you will get F by it here, there, everywhere. Naruto said, feeling Beth get even tighter. Yes yes honey, whatever you want. If you want me to bend over the kitchen counter so you can F me there, I will. If you want to press me up against the shower glass as you F me in the shower, you can. If you want me to give you a BLWJB or to F me underneath the dining room table, you can. Jerry's car, the backyard, laundry room, closet, living room, on the couch, anywhere anytime, just say the word darling. Beth yells lustfully, feeling more pleasure in mere moments of getting F by Naruto than every single experience of her life. And if you want to make me a mother again, have at it. SHT, a few thrusts and some teasing and she's broken. Naruto thought, as he was either more skilled than he thought possible or Beth was extremely sexually repressed. All Beth could do was gasp and in pleasure as Naruto claimed her PP with his massive tool. Every move stretched her moist walls wide, making them cling tightly to his tool as if refusing to let it go, especially when he pulled out. Her CRVX opened and closed like a gaping fish, wanting his mighty worm to enter its depths and claim the cave beyond. In fact, Beth could swear she felt like her ovaries themselves were vibrating, as if trying to force an egg down so that she could be bred by such a perfect specimen of the male gender. Beth, I want you to think nice and hard about what you want in SEC no more. Jerry, you can do anything in bed now, just ask. Naruto said as he played with her tips. Anything? Beth thought, as all her life she had only done missionary with her husband and she watched a lot of PWN in her time and could only dream about doing certain acts, but now here in the moment she didn't know what she wanted. I want to ride you, she said, as she was never on top, she wanted to experience that. Sure. Naruto said, doing a quick spin with her now on top of him. Ride me SLT, he said, giving her peach a nice slap, making it jiggle and her bounce by accident. The sudden bounce made Beth lose her balance, causing her to sink ball deep onto Naruto's PP in a single gravity-aided fall that resulted in his PP breaking her CRVX and lodging itself in her WMB, setting off a massive orgasm for the MLF, making her SQR all over the bed in front of her, covering it and Naruto's legs in her juices as her body spasmed and shocked in pleasure as she threw her head back and stared at the ceiling vacantly, a soundless scream coming from her mouth. For several moments Naruto just laid back and watched Beth spasm on his PP as she stared at the ceiling before he grew a bit worried. Are you okay, Beth? He asked as he broke girls, yet Beth was like a fragile glass breaking from the slightest touch. Hearing his voice seemed to snap Beth out of her stupor as she looked back over her shoulder at him. I wanna do everything, so just sit back and relax. Beth said in a breathy voice, looking at her lover. Naruto smiled hearing this. Very well, then go wild, he says, giving her Peach another spank, making it jiggle and causing her to as she began working her hips up and down and gyrating them on his meat, making sure that every single inch of his PP hit every single fold and crease of her vaginal walls. You like my Peach, honey? Beth said, shaking it, making it bounce onto his lap. You can have it just as soon you fill my PP, she said, as she never tried anal before, as Jerry was a one-pump chump. Sounds good, so you better get to work making me leak so that I can fill your wonderful pages. Naruto says, as Beth had been continuously squirting but had yet to make him juice. Beth bounced on his PP, wanting to taste his seed, as her PP was burning and needed to be filled. You better get used to feeling stuffed, Beth, I'm going to fill you daily. Naruto said, as his girls were never not with his juice inside them, be it their stomach, Peach, or PP. Would I be PRGNT again? Beth thought in slight excitement, as she'd finally have a husband who could give her a proper child. She froze, seeing the look in Naruto's eyes, as it was the look of a predator claiming what was theirs, sending a primal jolt of pleasure shooting through her body as she worked her hips even faster, craving the feeling of his seed flooding her. Moments later her goal was achieved, as Naruto reached forward, grabbing her hips and slamming her down to meet his upward move as he unloads his seed deep into her WMB, setting off yet another of her own orgasms. Over and over she felt bursts of thick seed being pumped into her WMB, sending mini orgasms shooting through her with each burst. Finally, after minutes of filling Beth's PP, Naruto's SMN finally stopped as he watched a heavily panting Beth shiver slightly atop him. So Beth, what else would you like to experience? He asks, rubbing her thighs. Spank me, she pleaded. Spank me like you did to my daughter, she said, wanting to prove to him she was just as good as her daughter. Oh, you clearly are her mother. You wanting a good form of DSPLN? Well, if you insist. He said to her, but first, you must do something for me. Anything. Beth said, as she would literally do anything he asked of her, no matter what, as she was his now and forever. Blow me. Beth pried herself off of him, quite a task given how her PP seemed to refuse to let go of his still hard-earned at no longer feeling him inside of her. Before going down to take his PP into her mouth, she heard him clear his throat. Looking towards him, she saw him twirl his finger around her PP as she felt him tease her untouched hole. Getting the idea, she indeed turned around and brought her Peach to his face, all the while she faced his pages. Before long she took his member into his mouth as he brought her PP to his mouth and began to worship it with them in a 69 position. After blowing and eating each other for nearly a half hour, Naruto wrapped his legs around Beth's head, pulling her down and forcing her to deep throat his PP as he blew his load down her throat, filling her stomach with his seed. Releasing his grip on Beth's head, the blonde MLF pulled her head up, releasing Naruto's PP from her throat and mouth with a gasp as a line of his juice dribbled down the side of her mouth and chin before falling on her heaving melons. I want more, she thought, not caring how or where she got it, but she wanted Naruto's seed in and on her. Get on your hands and knees, I want to take you like a bee when I claim your Peach. Naruto commands. The blonde MLF got on all fours and awaited for her desired reward and request. She felt his member rub against her folds, sawing against them in an agonizing fashion. Just when she expected to be inserted through her wanting CNT again, she instead had it go into her rosebud. I intend to give you your rightful spankings, but I really wanna F your lovely Peach and reshape it for my pleasure. She never could say this before, let alone now, but she had never taken anything up the Peach. She was literally an anal version. Naruto could feel how nervous she was, and it made it all the hotter for when he'd take her Peach. Beth, growing tired of Naruto teasing her, began to grind her Peach back and forth along Naruto's pages. Please darling, stop teasing me, she pleaded wantonly. Hearing her plea made him move fully into Beth with a single move, making her scream and shed more tears as she had her final virginity taken. He feels so much bigger than when he was in my PP, she thought, trying to adjust to the large pole tearing open her Peach. Beth began screaming and in pleasure as Naruto increased the speed at which he was assaulting her bowels. With every move inward he would slap one of her rippling peach cheeks before pulling out and slapping the other, repeating the process over and over as he shaped her bowels to fit his PP. Beth screamed as she gripped the bedsheets with such intensity her knuckles turned white, just tiring to hang on as her peach was relentlessly pummeled. He's gonna break my hips, she thought in excitement as he was slamming into her without mercy, as they both felt their ends approaching quickly due to the ferocity of Naruto's thrusts and the tightness of Beth's peach. Beth! Jerry said, looking like he was in shock once again as he witnessed Beth's stupid face as Naruto was behind her flooding her bowels with his juice. Beth glared as she stared at the worm she called her husband. Don't stop me, she said, looking at Naruto beggingly. Wasn't planning on it. Naruto thought, surprised. She thought Jerry, of all things, would be the reason he'd stop her. This is a real man, Jerry, a real man with a real PP. I am not your wife, I am his where, F you and everything you are, because you will never touch me again. Beth screamed as her peach was being plowed even as Naruto was filling it with his seed. Hearing all this was too much for the weak, pathetic parasite that was Jerry, causing him to pass out, collapsing to the floor. What a waste of space, though not going to lie, him bursting in kinda ruined the mood. Naruto says, looking down at Jerry's unconscious form. Can we go back to your place and resume our FING there? Beth asked, shaking her hips back and forth. No, he gets to watch just like his old man does for his wife. Jerry is a weak, simple cuck now, and the girls just arrived anyway. Naruto said, loving the look Jerry had as regained consciousness. He saw his daughter on a leash being dragged by Supernova. Supernova distastefully looked at Jerry. Pathetic, she said as she used some of her remaining planets to bind and GG him to the wall. Naruto, I brought your pets, she said as the three girls F on the floor as Supernova still had the planets made to look like Naruto's PP still F them. Good, now get over here. Naruto ordered her, and all she did was smile as she walked over. Beth, about time you joined us. Supernova said, sounding pleased. I may have a special place for you in this HRM, Beth, but only if you can keep up, she said with a soft giggle. Bring it. Beth said confidently. Oh, you have spunk. I like that. Very well then. Supernova said as she made another planet DLD modeled after Naruto's PP appear, though this one was double-sided. Inserting one end into her own PP with a pleasurable Supernova then positioned herself in front of Beth with the DLD positioned in front of her pages. Hope you're ready, Beth, because you're about to get a double dose of Naruto's PP at the same time, she said before slamming into Beth's PP. Beth let out a loud as she was impaled in both her holes. Oh, F so full, she screamed in euphoria, feeling both her holes stretched out. The two alphas of the relationship began to piston in and out of her, all the while Beth held on to Supernova. The mother more and more as she was enjoying being double stuffed in the Beth sandwich. Throughout this act, she brought the cosmic woman into a searing kiss, who was dominated by the same woman. She will be a good pet. Supernova thought, knowing Beth was salty enough to be a great wear to her lover. She's so good. Beth thought as this woman was amazing, everything about her was incredible, and yet she knew that Naruto was still superior. Tell me, Beth, is this your first time with another woman? Supernova asked teasingly, breaking the kiss and moving her hands down to squeeze Beth's heaving tips. Why yes, Beth said weakly through her Then now that we have changed that, we will have to explore more in the near future, many times at that. Supernova said as she wanted Beth to know Naruto wasn't the only one who was gonna use her. I'll F you as much as Naruto, Beth will have so much fun, she said as she was eager to start. That sounds heavenly, Beth says with another as the thought of being used so much was very appealing. Now let me show you something really interesting. Supernova says before using her powers she makes the DLD not only in her and Beth but also the ones in Summer, Jessica, and Trisha begin to heat up and vibrate intensely, making them all let out screams of pleasure. Wow, going all out already, Hanova. Naruto says with a chuckle. Well then guess I better kick it up a notch as well and wrap this up, he adds on as he increases the ferocity of his thrusts. Beth was at the mercy of two godly beings being F like a sec toy for their amusement. Get ready, Beth, because here, Leaks. Naruto says with a yell as he slams into her peach with one absolutely brutal ball-deep final move into her peach as his PP throbs and bulges further, increasing its size before it begins unleashing another flood of seed straight up Beth's peach. Supernova watched in amusement as Beth screamed out as she climaxed and as Naruto flooded her peach. Get used to it, SLT. There is no mercy when you will be thoroughly trained in everything, she thought, smirking at all the thought of what she'd do to Beth before screaming herself as her own CLMX crashed into her, making her control of her powers go haywire, increasing the heat and intensity of the vibrations of the DLDs. This then resulted in Summer, Jessica, and Trisha having their own orgasms while Beth was rocked by another one while still experiencing the previous one from Naruto flooding her peach. Now, Naruto said, moving an unconscious Beth to the side. I seem to recall you wanted to get knocked up, he said, seeing Supernova freeze and look even more corny than before. Yes, seed and breed me, Supernova said wantonly with longing as she craved a child. Oh, I plan to, but first there is something to take care of. Naruto says, looking towards where Jerry is, not wanting the pathetic man to see such an NTMT moment. Seriously, the F passed out again, the blonde adds on after seeing Jerry once more passed out. If this wasn't so amusing I'd have killed him, he thought to himself. Wow, he is even more pathetic than I thought. Summer says breathlessly, having finally recovered from the mind-numbing orgasm the dildos gave her. Yeah. Anyway, let's get out of here and finish up back at my place. Really don't want such a pathetic parasite in the presence of when I sire a child. Naruto says before gently shaking Beth, rousing her from her slumber. Come on Beth, we are heading to my place to finish up, he says tenderly. That sounds wonderful, darling. Beth says, cuddling into Supernova as she picked her up to carry her due to Beth being unable to feel her lower half. Naruto then went over and ripped Jerry off the wall before tossing him onto the juice and PP juice soaked mess that was the bed, where he landed face down in a pool of Naruto's juice. Oh wow, you think he might drown like that? Jessica asked upon seeing Jerry in that position. Meh, who cares? Summer says with a shrug, not caring if the pathetic insect that wasn't even worthy of being classified as a male, let alone the fact of him being her father, died. I for one can say there is no way I would drown in a pool of MSTR's juice, as it wouldn't be there long enough for me to drown. Trisha says, sensually liking her lips. Geez Trisha. Though I have to say I would be the same. Summer says, getting a nod from Jessica. Alright girls, enough for now, let's get headed, as the sooner we get over the sooner you three might get around for yourselves. Naruto said with a grin as he walked out of the room. The eyes of all the women widened before they all quickly made their way after him, wanting to see Supernova get impregnated and possibly get another round of SEC with Naruto themselves after it was done. However, all the women minus Supernova all felt envy when Naruto f'd the space goddess woman, and knew in the future he would do the same to them when he wanted them to carry his future children. Supernova didn't care how sore she got, she didn't care what Naruto did to her, she didn't care what he made her do, she wanted a baby, more specifically one with the man she loved with all her heart and being. The rest of the night was filled with much more carnal and passionate SEC. Naruto's house filled with and screams of pleasure well into the early morning when they finally ended. Naruto laid on his bed smiling contently as Supernova laid on his chest sleeping peacefully, their bodies still joined so as to keep his seed in her, increasing the chance of her becoming PRGN. On his left, Beth slept cuddled up to his arm, trapping it between her melons, her head nuzzled into his neck. His left side was occupied by Summer, who much like her mother had Naruto's arm trapped between her melons, though with his hand down by her PP, which she subconsciously grinded against even while asleep. Trisha and Jessica had each claimed one of his legs, with the former having inserted his toes into her PP and was gently rocking on them even while asleep. Jessica meanwhile had taken to grinding her peach against his foot despite her own slumbering state. God damn, I love my life. Naruto whispered with a soft smile before falling asleep himself. As Naruto drifted to sleep, his mind seemed to wander, feeling something appear in nature. He assumed it was his child in Supernova, but that was something else entirely, as this source seemed older and seemed to be reaching out to him, or more precisely him, Supernova, and the recently conceived child. Smith residence. Rick, what the F? Naruto asked as they all heard the roof squeaking. Hey kid, needed to unwind after, you know. Rick said, feeling slight sympathy as he understood the concept of lost love, and if Morty was gonna remain the same and not end with his bad habits, SEC with a robot seemed the safest bet. Fair point, Naruto said with a shrug after thinking about it for a moment. So we're just going to ignore what's going on upstairs? Jerry asked, annoyed. Shut the hell up, Jerry, it's your fault anyway, Beth snaps with a stern glare. Hey! I thought I was saving my son from one of those mantis monsters. Jerry yells back. First of all, they weren't mantis monsters, they were mutated people, so you technically murdered multiple people. Second of all, Annie had no features indicating she was a mutated, Naruto said with a deadpan. Oh well, didn't you and the others kill a bunch of mutated people as well? Jerry said, sounding superior with a smirk. We only killed criminals/escaped prisoners, we disabled others, Naruto pointed out lazily. Oh, and how could you tell? Jerry asked, still sounding cocky. I don't know, maybe the fact that they were all wearing torn-up prison jumpsuits. As for the criminals, that was mainly Beth's former co-worker Davin after he tried to RPE her, Naruto said with a glare at Jerry, making him gulp and shut up. Naruto, can you come up here? Morty screamed from upstairs. The group watched as Naruto went upstairs. Please don't be like Jerry. Everyone except Jerry thought, knowing Naruto was straight. Yo Rick! Naruto yelled as the scientist ran up. Please don't be gay, the women thought, unable to give up the hot SEC lifestyle they now had. Upstairs. Okay, we should kill it. Rick said, getting looks from the others. It's a baby that pukes at fire and already has teeth, for the love of God this thing could grow up and kill us, he said, being the voice of reason. Hate to say it, Morty, but this thing is producing a lot of testosterone, like 10 times that in an athlete it could be a grown man in a day. Naruto said as he had no problem killing animals, and there was no telling as it was now if the baby was more human than whatever else it was. Hell, for all we know its other half could be animal, he said to him. This is my responsibility, Naruto, I can't turn away. Morty said affirmatively. Naruto sighed as he couldn't really fault the boy. Guess I'm a GLF now. Beth said to herself, wondering if that added appeal to herself. Listen, we'll track down the species and see if it's more suitable there for the baby, cause Morty, it breathes mother F fire to me that just screams concern. Rick said as most violent races could be identified through certain traits. Few minutes later. So are you two doing a Han and Chewie thing? Summer asked in the garage, seeing Naruto help Rick. Dibs on Han. Naruto said with a grin, shooting Summer a look, wanting her to know she'd be Leia and would definitely be wearing a SLV bikini, or maybe Eula's dancing fishnets. Rick merely rolled his eyes, letting out a groan that sounded strangely Wookiee-like before turning his head, a small smile hidden from the two teens. So what the F happened that they needed a baby maker robot? Naruto asked as Rick looked ready to vomit as he touched Morty's load. Could be anything ranging from an apocalypse to every male or female on the planet turning gay. Rick said with a shrug. Well, if they are violent we can just kill them. Naruto said, seeing no issues, as if something was violent, mindless, or aggressive they were no different than animals in a slaughter. Rick opened a portal and got into a fight with Summer as she wanted to go, which resulted in a fight about the ERA where men and women were equals, and soon she was pulled through a portal. SHT, he said as Naruto soon jumped after her. Double SHT, he said, going in and seeing multiple corpses and BLD and guts on the ground, and saw the world was just another apocalypse world. 1 hour later. Is it wrong that I find this hot? Summer asked her grandfather as they sat back and watched Naruto still fighting the male species to the death. If you weren't my granddaughter then yeah, it would be a cause for alarm. But since you are, it's pretty normal. Rick says with a shrug, tinkering with some tech. Naruto Namikaze, halt, you are under arrest, a female more sophisticated version of the species said as many of them appeared around them. Few minutes later. Bro, what the F did you do to these chicks? Rick asked as if this was him, it'd make sense. No idea. Naruto says with a shrug, jingling the many chains covering him. Silence, male filth, a guard says, poking Naruto with her spear. Okay, real talk with me for a second. Did we or you defecate on this planet or commit mass murder or something else? Rick asked curiously as he wanted some context. Rick, we get smashed so much I can hardly remember some of the SHT we do. Naruto said as the stuff they drank was borderline poison. They were soon brought before the court and all the women were glaring at Naruto, especially the queen as she sat upon her throne. The charges against Naruto Namikaze are one of the greatest in our society. He copulated with one of our sisters and didn't call afterward, the queen says, getting gasps from the surrounding women. Okay, so what's the punishment, a fine or community service? Summer asked as that didn't seem bad. Death. The queen said in anger. How the hell is that a fair F sentence? Rick asked as that seemed extreme. Wait a second. Naruto said, looking at the girl with a spear next to the queen, she never called me, I gave her my number, he said, remembering he met the queen's guard off planet at a bar and they drank, flirted, and banged into the bathroom. All the women looked at her as she blushed as she took out her purse and soon emptied it. It would seem that the male was telling the truth. I just seem to have misplaced his number in my other purse, she said, looking at the number. So do I get off? Naruto said, getting a chuckle from Rick and Summer at the implications. No, for we must amend for our inhospitality as it states in the Crazy Bee Billiness, the queen said to him. Rick smiled evilly as that sounded hilarious. Naruto and Summer tackled Rick as they knew what he would say with an opportunity like that one. 1 hour later. So wait, the woman F up and she pays repercussions while our sentence was certain death. How is that fair? Rick asked as he hated feminists as they were kinda crazy, and while he didn't care what gender or race someone was, he often disliked certain extremes. What'd she have to do anyway? Summer asked as so far she was loving this planet. Well, we're now welcome on their planet, but besides that, they made her my servant. Naruto said as there were other options, but she jumped on that one. Naruto Namikaze, you have been summoned by the queen, a guard said to him. It's been 60 minutes, man, what the F could you do? Rick said in annoyance as he was starting to hate this planet. I am your friend. Naruto said as they all burst into laughter. Few minutes later. Okay, can you try and salvage their SMN from their corpses? Rick said as Naruto apparently killed all the males of the species. We are in the process of that, but we summoned Naruto here for a different reason. My guard has informed me that you are rather gifted in bed and I, the queen, am rather interested and want to experience it myself, the queen said to him. So basically you heard how he rocked your guard's world and want a taste now? Summer asks with a smirk. I am of a royal bloodline, there are certain benefits if you prove yourself, the queen said, looking at Naruto, and was rather attracted to his warrior body. So what you're saying is that if I make you see stars would I become king or something? Naruto asks with a raised brow. In simple terms, yes, and you would also be permitted to copulate and breed with any other sister on the planet, Marsha says. Why do you get the cool CC stuff? Rick asked in anger, feeling very jealous. My life is insane, besides didn't you have that whole hive mind thing last time we were in a similar situation? Naruto said to him. Meh, fair point, Rick said with a shrug. We shall do it before all my subjects, as it has been many years since a queen has been through the SXL act, the queen said to them. Wait, everyone has to watch Naruto nail you. Rick said the only problem with that was it was Naruto involved. Okay, screw this, I'm outta here, he said as his cuffs fell to the floor and he ran away as the guards chased him. F all of you, I don't need to see how he F my daughter, screw you all you sick freaks, he said, dodging some shots. Well, if there are no more interruptions, Naruto, may we go to my throne? The queen asked with a smile as she looked at him. Sure. Naruto said to her as he started walking towards the throne, starting to take his clothes off with each step. Few minutes later. My people, this man is our honored guest, a man unlike any other who is actually polite, the queen said as many women looked green with envy at the prospect. Will BF me before you all if he satisfies me. He may claim me as part of our laws about tapping Peach, she said with a smile. I gotta read these laws. Naruto thought as they sounded SXL and sometimes one-sided in certain cases. Naruto Namikaze, I Queen Masha offer you a seat on my throne. Masha said as she and Naruto began to strp, many of the females turning red as they saw his member, as they had seen images of the male Gazorpians, as NDTY was their primal and natural state and Naruto was easily outclassing them with his size. If it makes you ladies feel better, he has endless stamina, he F for hours and hours, our bodies are toys to relieve his stress as he won't stop. Summer said to the nearby crowd, painting as clear a picture as she could for them, and smiled when she saw juices trailing down all the women's legs. Masha was nervous as she was a virgin like most of her people. She looked at her former guard who was panting in jealous envy as her queen was going to F her new MSTR. Naruto watched as she got on his lap, and while she was a giant woman she was still rather petite, as fragile as glass, he thought, as he was gonna wreck her before the mass of people. Masha as he turned her around, making her face her people and not him, it made her feel nervous as all their eyes were on her. They're going to watch as I breed you, Masha. They will see your face as I break and push you past your limits. This is no competition, I already won you and all your subjects. Yes, watch sisters as I take his manhood and seed. Masha says with a blushing lewd face as she dropped onto his member, screaming in both pain and pleasure as he claimed her maidenhood. He's our king, she thought, coming to the realization that he now owned her and therefore all the women here. Masha began working her hips, bouncing on Naruto's meat, enraptured by how it was stretching and shaping her lower hole, her bountiful cheeks meeting his thighs in loud claps that echoed throughout the throne room. The women all watched as if in a trance as Masha's screams and made them want to experience Naruto themselves. Tell them, Masha, tell them what you are experiencing, Naruto said, reaching around the bouncing queen to grab her heaving melons, his fingers sinking into the bountiful flesh. Pleasure. Masha said in pure bliss, I have found a man that can satisfy me in ways I couldn't imagine. He is your king. When he finishes with me, all of you will pleasure him, your holes will be filled and we will all bear his children, ushering in a new age for our planet, she said as they had collected SMN from the male Gazorpian corpses to not make the bloodline entirely connected to Naruto, but they would still bear his children. The women all blushed nervously at the thought of Naruto F them as he was F their queen ferociously. They honestly thought he'd break them and their holes. I hope you are ready to be filled, Masha, Naruto says, moving his hands from her melons to her hips and helping her slam down onto him hard and deeper than what she was going. Masha screamed loudly as she had an explosive CLMX before her subjects. A puddle formed in front of her throne as she felt Naruto's hot seed entering her WMB. The sheer amount entering her causing a noticeable bulge to form in her abdomen, much to the shock and arousal of her subjects, several of whom actually had their own orgasm at the sight and passing out from pleasure as a result. Naruto continued to pump more and more seed into Masha until she violently twitched and soon shot off Naruto like a rocket, falling into a puddle of her own juices in front of the throne. Naruto didn't stop as he continued to F Masha, pushing her head towards the floor as he slammed his still hard PP into her untouched peach, getting an ear-splitting scream of pleasure and pain from the queen as he began claiming her peach, shaping it much like he had her PP. Masha was beginning to understand what sorta man Naruto was as he F her into the floor. All of you, STRP, she yelled at her subjects, wanting them ready for Naruto. Good idea, Masha. But I give the orders now. After all, I think I satisfied you enough to be your king, don't you think? Naruto says, continuing his dominating of the queen, giving her rippling peach a firm slap. Yes, MSTR, I apologize, please punish me as you see fit. Masha said, eager for her punishment. Very good, though you got my title partially wrong. Now, what am I? Naruto says, punctuating his words with a savage move with each word. Ah! My king! Masha yells in bliss as she felt his thick seed fill her peach. Very good, Queenie. Now for one more round before I move on to claim each of my eagerly waiting subjects, Naruto says, breaking off the back of Masha's throne before he picks her up and lays her over it and begins. Resuming his savage F of her, returning to her PP as she screams in bliss, her body heaving and shaking in pleasure for her subjects to see and await their own turn, some subjects having started masturbating to the sight of their queen being dominated. That day became a holiday for the women of the planet as they would worship Naruto's gift to them, as it marked the day he gifted the women of the race, and they all trembled in delight whenever he would come back. 12 hours later. Virgins. Summer thought in amusement as Naruto had all the women of Gezorpazorp in every location, filling them to the brim as he was now their ruler and their god. I'll be back whenever I can, Masha. I expect you all to last longer next time. Naruto said, kissing the queen. Yes, MSTR will F each other to the point of exhaustion preparing for you. Masha said as she jumped as he slapped her peach. Good, my little queen. Naruto said as he was glad only she and her guard had his number, otherwise he'd be bombarded with peach calls. So you gonna F me and mom when we get back? Summer asked as they got in a ship, knowing those women needed a lot of work before they could ever hope to satisfy Naruto. Yep, but it takes a bit to get back to Earth, so start eating, Summer. Naruto said as she began blowing him as they drove back to Earth. Few days later. SHT man, you made millions. Naruto said as he was helping Morty plan his son's funeral, as said son made a bestseller. Hey, if it makes you feel any better, he killed a couple dozen people with poison gas and made people dance till their feet bleed, he said to him. Why would that make me feel better? Morty asked him curiously as the sounded terrible. This way you know that it wasn't your fault that you kid lived up to his genetic potential as a killer. Naruto said to him as the battle of nature versus nurture was ongoing and Morty Jr. lived up to both in certain ways. Hey, be proud you tried, he said as Morty smiled, albeit weakly. Better make sure these things can't come back from the dead or do SHT when they decay. Naruto thought as he was intending to pay Gezorpazorp another visit to F the women and see the production of the planet, as while he did kill most of the male Gezorpians, he had their seed extracted for the machines, so his bloodline wasn't the main one. Few days later. We gonna have more problems, train boy. Naruto said as he still didn't like this guy, as anyone who messed with death, even if it was inanimate objects like trains, seemed a bit much, and the man was giving him attitude given he stole supernova from him, or at the very least the man suspected something was going on between his wife and Naruto. So long as you keep in line we won't, punk, Alan said, crossing his arms and narrowing his gaze. Naruto simply raised an eyebrow at the man as he thought, yeah, that's it, Peach, keep it up, as I can't wait until Supernova reveals to you that we have been F behind your back and she is mine now, he thinks to himself. Want a drink? I sure do. Vance said as he made martinis as he watched the events unfold. Naruto rolled his eyes as this guy thought he was a cooler version of Rick, but Naruto knew that under all that he was a man who buried everything, had PTSD, and was an emotionally detached person, not having any real value for other people and just wanted to sleep around and live on the edge, which was even worse for his PTSD. Okay, so let's get back to the mission briefing, Supernova says, drawing everyone's attention. Okay, while the rest of us distract Dumnometron, Lady Katana will sneak up its nasal passage and sever its neural center, she says. Those veins are pure titanium, my katanas won't make a dent, Lady Katana says, crossing her cybernetic arms. They're extra strength, they're regular katanas, I'm a cyborg that's extra good with regular katanas, Supernova begins to say, only for Katana to cut her off. This resulted in Calypso making a comment about why they were even on the team given their powers were useless against Dumnatron, as she could use necromancy, which was useless against this enemy. Benign Vance made a remark about how important they were on the team, though it was obviously a bullshit excuse to have two persons of color on the team, giving it better optics to the public. Can't you just crack open a moon or something? Diablo Verde asked Supernova. That's not on the table. Alan said, suddenly causing Supernova to shake her head towards him. Supernova's PRGNT, he says, causing the rest of the group's eyes to widen and Naruto to spit out his soda. Mazel tov. Crocubot said to Supernova, congratulating them. Thank you, Crocubot. Supernova said as her other teammates were less congratulatory, as Lady Katana made some HNDJB gestures to Naruto while parting her lips in an O shape and sticking her tongue against her cheek, earning her a blast to the face from Supernova, who told her not to be crude. Diablo Verde was also kind, but he got drunk and talked about how his mother tried to abort him and it made her feel awkward. Calypso was odd as she stuck to her normal state of calling people out on SHT, a million ants, was an odd one as it was asking her and Naruto for spiritual advice, and while Naruto was happy to help, he crossed some lines with certain questions. But as this went on she began to cough slightly, and when she looked at her hand, she felt terror as she saw orange solar. Radioactive goo on it. I have been meaning to ask, but how is Dumnometron even alive? Didn't Supernova and I kill him a while back on that space station? Naruto asked. Apparently he was able to upload his consciousness to a backup body before the bomb went off and has been in hiding since then, upgrading his new body to be the form we see now, Supernova says, gesturing to the hologram in the middle of the table that showed a massive. The rest of the meeting went as they usually did, and as a result they planned to later meet to track and find World Ender. Naruto's house. You okay? You seem off. Naruto asked Supernova curiously. Who, me? Yeah, I'm perfectly fine. Supernova said nervously and quickly as she went into the bathroom. Come on, come on, come on. She thought, trying to hold her namesake in as she got her name, not just for her space powers, it was because she herself could create small supernovas that, while not strong enough to wipe out a galaxy, was strong enough to wipe out a large planet, and right now she was trying to keep that energy contained. Just as she got it under control, Naruto walked into the bathroom and wrapped his arms around her from behind. So, PRGNNH, he says, simply running his hands over her abdomen. Supernova brought her hands down to meet his as she leaned into his embrace. I'm sorry I kept it from you, I was worried about your reaction, she said, fidgeting in his grip. Naruto simply turned Supernova around, looking her in the eyes. Nova, you have nothing to worry about, I am not mad, in fact I am overjoyed. We're going to be parents, he says with a wide grin, causing her eyes to widen in relief as cosmic trails of tears leak down her cheeks in joy before she wraps her arms around Naruto's neck and pulls him into a kiss. Few days later. Are you sick? Naruto asked in slight worry, as while embarrassed to admit he didn't know what she could be suffering from, as the baby was blocking out most of his senses on Supernova given its output of power, and Supernova herself was unlike anyone. Yeah, might be a solar flare. Supernova said unsurely, not knowing what to tell him. Naruto raised an eyebrow, but decided to let this play off. Oh. Thank you, Star Mother. Supernova thought as Naruto dealt with her cramps by rubbing her abdomen with his hands covered in chakra, but the solution was temporary as she could feel it build up again even now. 1 week later. Please tell me he isn't humping a steam engine right now. Naruto asked them as he looked at Alan as he was meditating and whispering and had an irkton. He had to do this whenever we try to be NTMT, he called it, working his whistle. Supernova said as many just laughed at that. Ha, ghost dude can only get it up if he FA train. Katana yells out, laughing her as off. Yes, it's quite embarrassing, hence why we never are NTMT with each other anymore, Supernova says with a straight face while thinking, that and the fact that his PP is F tiny, is only ever at half-mast, and the fact that I have met the love of my life in Naruto and he F me with his massive man meat that makes me see literal stars with every CLMX. Wait, back up, where is he opening up the portal? Naruto said as they knew Alan made trains appear by opening a portal between the dimensions. They were just wondering where it would appear. OSHT, Calypso said in realization as a ghost train burst through the back of the ship past them and ran through the front of the ship, opening it up to the vacuum of space. Naruto didn't know if his child needed air or not like its mother, but he did a chakra dash and repaired the glass just as everyone was about to get ate out into space. Okay, F this, I'll push and someone break this guy's hands, also his pages, he said as Alan needed to think more with his powers and not his PP. Few days later. What the F? Naruto said as Vance went to investigate a planet with a simple dispute, and when he arrived there was murder on every street. The F is this guy's problem, he thought, as even Rick had his limits on killing people on this scale. Few hours later. You're no hero. Naruto said as he saw the corpses, many abused before death, many violated in numerous ways, and many killed for no reason. And what you are? Last I checked you kill people to punk Peach. Vance said, getting up. When I do it, it serves a purpose. I don't kill people because I get triggered or sobering up. Naruto said as he had a pretty good guess of how this went down. Vance was drinking, slept with some people, and when he began to sober his PTSD came and triggered all this, and the worst part was Naruto knew Vance knew he wasn't a hero and truly was a monster. F you kid, I'm a vindicator. Know what that means? I'm a hero. I could murder one side and be considered a hero by the other. Let this whole F bar be an example. Collateral damage on the war on drags, people buy anything. Vance said to him, not really caring. Not anymore Vance, this is too far, you are out of the Vindicators and under arrest. Supernova says, floating down next to Naruto. Please, I ain't going down, especially not to some knocked up where, and even if I was I'd bet I would get a conjugal visit from your beach peach, cause gotta be honest I haven't FAPRGNB in a while. Watch it Vance, that's my wife you're talking about, Alan says, appearing with Million Ants, Calypso, and Lady Katana. Dumbass and Vance, the only visits you'll be getting are from your cellmate. Supernova said as Alan wasn't getting the picture yet. We may be divorced but that's still my child you are carrying and I will be part of its life, Alan says determinedly with a hint of a possessive tone in his voice causing Naruto to grit his teeth. You asshats really think you can take me down and kick me out? I am the Vindicators. Vance says, raising his arm and firing off a shot from his blaster only to miss completely and the shot to ricochet off several walls before heading back towards him. Ah F me, he says before the shot hits his head, blowing it to pieces and killing him. The rest of the Vindicators were totally speechless at what had just happened before Lady Katana started laughing her ass off. Oh god, dude just blew his own head off, please someone tell me they recorded that, she says. I record everything I see, so yes I have it recorded, Crocubot states as he pointed to his robotic eye. We are going to have a talk about personal boundaries and privacy when we get back to the ship, Crocubot, Calypso says, recalling a time when he walked in on her having an NTMT moment with Lady Katana after the latter had swiped a huge DLD from Supernova's room. Few days later. Supernova was currently massacring an entire civilization on a planet called Dorian 5 where apparently the inhabitants worshipped Dumnometron as some kind of god and had willingly let their entire civilization be infected by his nanobots, thus making them its thralls and backup bodies if its main body was to die. Can I ask why, in the name of whatever F god there is, would a planet want to make a monster? Naruto asked as this was the planet of world enders BRTH, as this planet wanted to wipe out much life in the galaxy and become the Diamant race. I don't know, but these people need to die. Supernova said as she seen the damages caused by world ender, so many corpses floating in space. When she thought about the children she wanted to vomit. I know I hate it just as much as you that we have to wipe them out, but there is no other choice, Naruto said as they continued slaughtering the mindless thralls. The two viewed it as a mercy to the people, as despite their cult-like faith in Dumnometron they were still technically living beings but were also technically not living due to what they had become. Supernova rose into the air above Naruto and unleashed a massive beam of energy in an arc around her, wiping out the last tens of thousands of mindless thralls before collapsing to the ground had it not been for Naruto catching her. Okay, that was not normal, we need a doctor. Naruto said, looking her over as he made a call to the only person that'd be able to help him before they headed back to the Vindicators' ship. Upon getting on the ship they were swarmed by the other Vindicators who rushed to see if Supernova was alright, given they had detected the surge from aboard the ship. Supernova, are you alright? How is the baby? Alan asked worriedly, fearing something might be wrong with their child. Okay Ghost Deech, you need to back up and give her some room, Naruto says, pushing the man back as he started crowding Supernova. No, you need to get the F away from my wife and our child. Alan yells back, sick and tired of the blonde punk in his mind getting in the way of him taking care of his wife and child. Shut the F up, Alan. God, you are so F stupid, the baby is Naruto's. Supernova screamed in rage, finally having enough of her pathetic ex-husband with everything she is going through. What? What are you talking about? Of course the child is mine, Alan says in confusion and disbelief. No, you moron, the baby is Naruto's. We have been having an affair and love each other since the first time we went up against Dumnometron and ended up stranded on Delphi 6. Ever since then we have been lovers, and he outclasses you in every conceivable way, as not only is he actually able to get it up, he is hung like a horse, easily eclipsing your tiny PP, Supernova says, revealing everything with absolutely no shame. Alan's face went through a myriad of expression from confusion, to disbelief, followed by realization, before ending on pure rage, where, he yells, raising his fist and cotying it in ghost train energy before leaping forward to attack Supernova, shockingly aiming not for her face but her abdomen, aiming to rob the two of their child. However, before he came within even a foot of Supernova his world suddenly turned upside down before he suddenly saw his body upside down. That confused him until he hit something hard and saw he was laying on the floor of the ship while his body still stood up, though it was lacking his head. Realization hit him then before his world turned black as a foot came down blowing his head apart in a shower of BLD, brains, and bone fragments ending his life. "Don't you dare try to harm my love or our child," Naruto says to the bloody remains of what was left of Alan's head on the bottom of his boot. Supernova joined Nin, snapping her fingers and vaporizing the rest of the dead man's body in a solar flare beam, reducing it to not even ash. The two then looked at the shocked faces of what remained of the team. "Are we going to have a problem as a result of that?" Naruto asked them, given what he just did as he dematerialized the black sword in his hand. "Dude, he just tried to kill your guys' unborn child simply because he was pissed that he got cucked. You were totally in the right," Lady Catan says in a tone that implies if they hadn't moved to kill the man she would have. "Indeed, had you not stepped in I would have used my ants to rip him to pieces from the inside out," Million Ants says. "To be enraged after finding out you were cheated on is acceptable, but to go as far as trying to harm an unborn child is unacceptable. If anything, you did not give him a painful enough death for his heinous act." Diablo Verde says with a stoic face as he knew the pain of being unwanted and hated, so he vowed never to let such an injustice happen on his watch. "Good to hear. Now if you will excuse us, we have a doctor's appointment that can't wait any longer," Naruto says as he and Supernova walk over to and get in his spaceship before blasting up for Earth. "God DMN, please tell me I don't have to clean up what's left of that butt's head off the floor," Noob says, walking in and seeing the mess. "No Noob, you don't have to clean it up, the cleaning bots can do that. Why don't you take the rest of the day off?" Calypso says to the little alien. "Thank you kindly, I will do just that," the little alien says with a wide happy grin before walking off with a bit of spring to his step and a smile on his face, as it had been a really good week for him given how both Vance and now Alan were killed, as they were the primary two that would treat him like SHT. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 3. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author pyrohelixdrago on fanfiction.net. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.